Good morning, everybody. Oh, I think I'm too hot. Let's lower it just a little bit. Good morning. Are you guys all right? Everybody okay? Hear me all right? I hope. Sound is okay? Oh, I think I'm a little bit too hot. How's everybody today? Happy Sunday. Welcome. Are you guys doing okay today? Are you guys all right with the time change situation? I'm not really sure if anybody's confused by the time change. There might be a few of you that are kind of confused by it, depending on where you're located. But first, let me know if everything's okay with the sound, guys. Is everything all right? Am I too hot? I don't want to clip. Seems like I'm a little hot here today. Can you slightly hot, eh? Yeah, that's what I figured. How about now? Is it too low? You know, the mixer that I'm using is very sensitive. So it's like a millimeter to the right is hot, and then a millimeter back to the left is a little bit too low. So just let me know when it's just right. I'm just gonna adjust it here. I still see that it's a little hot. Okay, I'll try and not talk too loud. There's a slight crackle. Yeah, if there's a crackle, it's because it's too hot. What about the guitar? Let me just. Is the guitar okay? Now it's too low? Oh man. Sorry about that, guys. How about now? Is that a bit better? I think when I'm closer to the microphone, it tends to clip a little bit. I'll be careful. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Addicted to Gear, the show where we spend most of the show adjusting parameters on our mixer. Just kidding. The show is about much more than that. It's about gear, obviously. Says the guitar needs to be turned off. Is it making noise? Is the guitar making a humming or anything when it's on? I don't know. Anyways, we'll get to that a little bit later. Cushman says the guitar is good. All right, cool. So I'm happy you guys are here. I was thinking today, because it's daylight savings time, that I'd be here all by myself, because maybe some of you guys don't participate in this crazy thing we call daylight savings time, but here we do, which means that we'll lose an hour. Actually, yeah, we lose an hour because it's fall forward, spring back, or is it spring forward, fall back? I always get them mixed up. Spring forward, fall back. So we're going forward an hour, which means we get an hour extra of daylight at night, which is I love that, because I'm feeling at the end of winter, it's so depressing not to have any daylight and come home from work when it's dark outside. So for me, any extra hour of daylight in the evenings is great. I don't mind getting up a little bit extra early in the morning, since I'm up early anyways, most of the time. So I'm happy you guys are here. Thank you for joining me. Let me just say a quick hello to the guys that are here today. I just do my romper room bit. If you guys are old like me, you'll know what I'm talking about. So Dan is here. And Dan says DST has got to go away. I agree with you, Dan. I don't know if it's still worthwhile having daylight savings time these days. Jerry's here. Hi, Jerry. Charles, good morning. How's it going, Charles? Ben, he's hoping everyone's happy and healthy. So far, so good, I hope. Paul, welcome back to the weekly family reunion. That's so nice of you to say, Paul. If you're new, just showing up today means you just got adopted. So do a thumbs up and subscribe. Your chair will be out and waiting for you before next time. Oh, cool. Thank you, Paul. Nice to hear that, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys are getting some entertainment value out of the shows on Sundays. Randy's here. He says, time change. Good morning, Tony. Talk stuff time. It's me, Don P. Cushman. Quicksilver says, good thing I remembered. Yeah. Good morning, Jack. I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well too, man. I hope everybody had a good week also. My week was not bad. It wasn't the best week, but I've had worse. We try to make the best of it. Quicksilver says 2 more weeks for Europe to make the jump to daylight savings time. Okay. And Mark is feeling the kick of daylight savings time. So you worked late last night and you're working till noon to midnight. Man, that's rough. Quicksilver says the status says waiting for Addicted to Gear equals Tony's late. I hope it's still not saying that. I should be good to go. Dan of New Jersey, Cool Tunes Made Easy, Steve, Jack, Charles. Well, I said hi to Charles already. All right, cool. I'm just scrolling down real quick. Jean-Pierre is here too. Eddie's here. All right. Christian, Steve. And Steve says, can't we just turn it down on our side if it's too loud? You can. But the problem is that it clips. You'll hear like a little crackling sound when it gets too loud. So I'm going to try and not get so close to the mic so that you don't hear the crackling. All right. Hervé's here. Am I pronouncing it right? H-E-R-V-E. Hi from France. Very instructive channel. 1000 thanks. Thank you for joining us from France. Very nice. Profile Production, what's up? Wayne, I'd rather lose the GST than the DST. Thumbs up to that, I agree. Am I an early riser? I tend to be, Cushman. I usually don't sleep in very much, unfortunately. I don't know why, I'm just up. Hey Mike, good morning. Alan, good morning. From Pennsylvania. So Quicksilver just took the bicycle in the shop for full service to get it ready for the upcoming spring/summer season, but it was 15 degrees C on Friday, and then yesterday it was 2 degrees and snowing. W2TF, yeah, it sounds like what we're getting over here. But it's good that you're getting your bike ready. It's an omen that basically you're getting ready psychologically to tackle some activity this summer, and I can't wait to get my bike out as well this summer. I actually ended up buying an e-bike last year, and I love it. Now the only problem is my wife can't keep up with me because she doesn't have an e-bike, so I'm going to have to get one for her so that we can enjoy cycling. We both really enjoy it. Johnny Franklin says, good morning, Tony. Here like every Sunday. Regards from Lima, Peru. Very cool. St. Brando's here too. Good morning. Felt great to work 7 hours instead of 8. Worked from 2300 to 0700. I see. Well, now's the time to relax a little bit so that we can actually enjoy some time together. So if you guys are ready for some gear talk, I got some interesting topics ready for you guys today. But first, of course, I wanted to ask if you guys have been good this week. Never mind this year, this week. If you've stayed out of trouble this week or perhaps been naughty. And if you've been naughty, we definitely want to hear from you. If you've been good, well, kudos to you too, but we prefer the naughty stuff. So if you guys have, picked up anything interesting that you want to report, we're all ears, okay? So don't wait to talk about it. Just jump in. Profile Production says new gear, BC Rich 5-string bass Burl maple top bad Asa. So that's really cool. 5-string bass. So I'm not a bass player. I dabble in it a little bit. I do have a bass that's lying around here somewhere, and I use it when I do some recordings, and I enjoy just, mucking around with it a little bit. It's always fun. I haven't actually ever played a 5-string bass. I know that today there's 5, 6, even 7, I think, string basses. So when you get to like something like a 6-string bass with the fretboard being so wide, is it like, it must be a little bit more awkward to play? How do you feel the extra string? Like, how much more range are you getting with the extra string on that bass? Do you actually need it? Because, you can hit some of those notes way up here, right? So, but I understand more strings is always better, in my opinion. Burl maple top should be really nice. How much does that BC Rich go for? I'm out of whack with prices when it comes to basses. I really don't know what basses are going for. I know they're just as expensive or can be even more expensive than certain guitars, but I have no clue how much the BC Rich 5-string bass goes for. Paul says he didn't know about the time change. My laptop put in the correct time for me earlier than now. I have no need to check the time, so time passing went by unnoticed. Well, that's cool. At least you're up to speed. You're not late for work or anything like that. Mark says, no new gear for me. I'm in a new gear drought bin since Christmas, I think. Is that because you got your fill, Mark? I know you went on a rampage there for a while, which was fun because you did get the PRS, the head, well, the actual amplifier. You did, I think. Well, we know you had the SG and you had PRSs that came in, and some guitars came in, some guitars went out. So it's cool. You know what? Just resetting a little bit and just taking the time to kind of get your thoughts together about the next step when it comes to gear is always good. It's, temptation is always there. There's always going to be new stuff that's coming out that's going to entice us. But sometimes it's good just to take a step, a breather, analyze what you have, what you really need, and, just think about the needs as a point to the wants. It's not a bad thing. Quicksilver says, I'm sure it's the same in other parts of Europe, but I love the bike trails along the river here in Prague. And all the little beer gardens along the way. On a 50-kilometer ride, you end up sloshed. I guess Prague is pretty famous for the beer, so it's a good thing. But, riding your bike drunk could have dire consequences. You might end up in a ditch somewhere. Profile Production says, I have a 6-string Ibanez. I don't know how you spelled it funny, but I think you meant Ibanez. Jerry says, got to get out there and ride bike trails. That's a lot of fun. Mississippi Blues, hi Tony and all, will take delivery tomorrow of an Eastman T486 thin line to go along with my Eastman SB59V Redburst. Love the channel. Well, I don't know if you saw the video, Mississippi Blues, but I just did a new guitar review on the Eastman T486 the other day. So if you did see it, that's great. First of all, the T486 is an awesome guitar, I have to say. It's really, really nice. And if you haven't had the opportunity to watch the video on that one, please do. I did a full review. And Eastman guitars were it was kind of a sleeper for me. And I'll tell you why I ended up getting that guitar, just because if you are interested in checking it out, guys, if you're into like 335s, hollow body style guitars, that kind of thing, the Eastmans are really crazy. What I was really after, and I'm not going to lie, and I mentioned that in the video, was a 345 or a 355. But more of a vintage one, something from Gibson that was, maybe 60s. But those things are uber expensive. They're hard to find, and when you do find them, they're rarely in good condition. And I just love the split parallelogram inlays. I don't know why, but guitars with the split parallelogram inlays always did it for me. And I ended up coming across somebody selling the T486 Eastman local. And I never actually tried an Eastman because honestly, they don't have very many in stores around here. But as soon as I saw it, it just spoke to me. It's one of those things where you have an immediate connection to what you're seeing. And, the parallelograms, the ebony fretboard, the beautiful burst on this thing. The burst and the flame maple back and front and back, it's just a crazy nice. And you know, as well as the other features. I mean, all good quality parts, all good quality components, and the cherry on the tape, the cherry on the cake, for me, was when I asked more questions on the guitar. The seller said that he had upgraded the pickups because they usually come with a set of Seymour Duncan pickups. I think it's a 59 and a Jazz, which are not shabby pickups at all. They sound great, but he had upgraded them to 57 Classics, and those are my favorites. I love 57 Classics. That's the type of pickups that I have in my 335, my Gibson 335, and I love them. So when he told me that, it was like, oh my God, you know, instant, like, you know, instant interest, for lack of a better word. But, and then he also said that he had upgraded the electronics on the guitar. Not that you need to upgrade it, but I guess he was in there and he figured it would be easier to do everything at the same time. So he updated the electronics, and for me that's a plus. You know, it's another $150, $175 upgrade right there that was already done. And the guitar was in mint condition. It came with the case. You guys remember I kind of hinted at showing you the case that was leaning against my Marshall in the back, and asked you guys to guess. And some of you actually did guess, and I mentioned your names at the end of that video because I was so impressed. Anyways, long story short, the guitar plays amazingly well, sounds great. It doesn't sound the same as my Gibson. So if any of you are wondering, like, does it sound the same as the 335? It doesn't. It doesn't sound the same. The frequencies are not the same, surprisingly, and this is unplugged I'm talking about. You know, but you can hear it plugged in too. The frequencies are in a different place on those guitars. And it's not bad, because they both sound great. It's just that they're different, which in a way is a plus, because I don't necessarily want to have a bunch of guitars that sound identical. You know, it wouldn't make sense for me. So anyways, long story short, I went to check out the guitar, and immediately it was one of those things, was like, you know, it clicked right away, and it's like, yeah, it was honestly the nicest looking guitar that I own right now. In terms of quality and details, and if you haven't seen one up close in real life, you probably can't really appreciate it, but it's an amazing guitar. If you guys, you know, if anybody is considering, I would say, like, grab one. A lot of people are sidetracked, or maybe they're not as interested in the Eastmans because they are made in China, right? So people figure, you know what, maybe they're too expensive for a guitar made in China, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think the MSRP in Canada, and I don't know what they are in the States, is about $2,600 MSRP on that guitar. I got an amazing deal, by the way. I'm not going to tell you the price because I don't want to, you know, hurt anybody's feelings, but the price on this guitar was fantabulous. So of course I had to grab it. That was even more reason for me to grab the guitar when I did. So like I always say, sometimes, you know, the opportunities just pop up and you just have to be ready to jump on it. And I did sell one of my amps. I did sell the Black Star, the JJN, because honestly, after getting the Fractal, I wasn't really using it. To be honest, since I got the Fractal, I haven't really been using any of these amps, except for the occasional just warming up the tubes type scenario, because the Fractal's crazy. So I figured, you know what, a lot of amps sitting around gathering dust. I figured that one, I can easily get the sounds that I was getting out of that amplifier from the Fractal. So I ended up selling it. So that, you know, that money kind of went to something else. And I think I'm going to be focusing more on guitars than amps these days, because of the fact that I think I have my sounds in terms of amps and pedals kind of covered with the Fractal. So I don't know if that answers your questions, but Jerry, the wood on the Eastman is really nice. Exactly. I have the 57 pickups on a 339 Gibson, and they're great. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree on that. Quicksilver says, I'm considering dropping T-type Gibson pickups on my Epiphone ES335, but do what say you? But do what say you, Tony? 57 classics on the neck and 57 classics. Yes, yes, yes. If you can put a 57 classic in the neck and a 57 classic plus in the bridge, very nice combination. I think you're going to be super happy with that in the Epiphone. I still have my Epiphone 2 right now. It's not behind me. I put it away, I think. But I have an Epiphone that I purchased, and now that I brought in the Eastman, and I do have the Gibson 335, and I do have another semi-hollow body right there. You can see it on the stand. That's a vintage brand guitar, which sounds very nice too. I might get rid of the Epiphone just because it's kind of redundant at this point. I did buy the Epiphone to be more of a gigging semi-hollow body guitar, but I'm thinking maybe it's time for me to... It's only been a short time, and it's a great guitar, but I have a feeling it's not going to get much use. Quicksilver, I didn't mention how much I paid the guitar. I didn't mention it because I don't want to necessarily hurt anybody's feelings, but let's just say it wasn't the manufacturer anything close to the retail manufacturer's price. I got an excellent deal. Let's just say it was more than $1,000 less. If that gives you an idea. So for me, like a 2006 29, that's a lot of money for a guitar, and it's getting close to the amount of money you're going to be paying for a Gibson 335, right? So with the tax and everything, you're getting pretty close. So at that price, I would consider it a little bit harder, but at the price that I got it used, it was a no-brainer for me. And definitely, I encourage everybody just to look through the used market. It's a no-brainer. You save so much money. Quicksilver, yes, I do have the vintage VSA behind me there. Right there, this guy. I didn't sell it. No, didn't sell it. It's funny because I actually compared that one versus the Epiphone. Now that we're talking 335 style guitars, to me, the vintage actually seemed livelier in terms of the sound unplugged compared to the Epiphone, surprisingly enough. But that is an older guitar, so I'm thinking maybe the woods have had time to like age and dry out more and maybe become more resonant. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it definitely sounds different. All these 335 style guitars, semi-hollow bodies, they all sound different. They all sound different. And maybe one day I'll actually do a comparison video of the Eastman compared to the 335, considering they both have the same pickups. It's true. It just dawned on me. That might be a nice side-by-side comparison to see what the sound difference is there. St. Brando says he's been seeing them selling for close to 3K Canadian. Really? Wow. I didn't realize they were that expensive. Well, 3K, yeah, because 26.29 is the MSRP. Plus, if you add the sales tax on that, you're getting close to $3,000. It's true. Yeah. Mark, honestly, if you're into semi-hollow body guitars and you can get one at a good price, grab it. They're really nice guitars. I don't see myself selling that guitar, honestly. It just looks and plays so nice. So I'm really happy I got it. Paul says 57 classics are under the radar. I thought they were lame. Something to tear out and to put gourmet pickups in. Then I got my SG and didn't know what I had in it. Was blown away. I don't know why a lot of people think the 57 classics are lacking in some way. They just have such a great classic sound. To me, that they just sound great. Kevin says, did you ever look into jam pedals? I have the pink flow pedal. Look them up. I did look into the jam pedals. They seem to have a nice variety of stuff there. But right now, I have so many pedals right here, Kevin, that they're still in a box somewhere. And I still have to do reviews on so many of these pedals just because I figured it'd be nice. But again, this damn Fractal has like put a damper in all the stuff that I've been doing because it's such a just a time pit. You get into doing stuff with this Fractal, and before you know it, you spend 3 hours, but 3 pleasant hours. It's not like it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's just one of those things where there's just so much under the hood on this thing. I was actually playing around with this freak out kind of effect where you can get the Fractal to feed back with the expression pedal, which is a lot of fun. It's like, you know, it actually makes it feel more like an amp. And I had dialed in some nice sounds, the Brad Whitford patches that I got, which have some really nice sounds in it, including the one I was playing earlier, this Liverpool kind of, I guess it's a Vox, like a kind of a cranked Vox sound, you know? Which is beautiful, I think. It's just the right amount of top, just the right amount of crunch. You can get it to bite, you know? I'll put it in the neck. Sounds great to me. By the way, I'm still playing this guitar that I started to build, this kit guitar. And I actually gave it a name. I decided to call it the Little Rocker because it sounds great. It rocks really hard, and I haven't actually finished fixing it up yet. I have the adjustment on the nut to do. The nut is still too high, so I'm gonna have to like lower the slots and just sand down the neck, the nut a little bit so that the strings are closer to the frets here. And I actually changed the saddles. Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember, but I had brass compensated saddles in this guitar, and it seemed a little bit too bright to me because the bridge pickup on this guitar is pretty bright. Like I'm actually using the tone knob a little bit to kind of dial it down, but I like that because it cuts through the mix so well if you're playing in a live scenario. In my opinion, it's almost better to have a little bit more cut than not enough, because you can always dial it back with the tone, but if you don't have enough, then you just get buried in the mix. So this one is definitely not going to have that issue, but the compensated saddles that I had that were brass, they were doing a funny thing. They were giving me it was a little bit too bright, so I ended up replacing them with these barrel bridge Telecaster saddles that I had lying around, and I think they sound less bright. And in this guitar, it's a good thing. Eventually, I'll use those for something else. So you really have to match the parts to your guitar many times. Jerry says, I have a Digitech Freakout pedal, Tony. Love the feedback effect. Yeah, it's kind of like it mimics that pedal. It's not an easy thing to do. You have to really understand how to use some of the frequency modulations with the Fractal, which I'm just starting to learn right now. But once you have it in there, it's really cool. The only thing I really need to do now is I need to get another expression pedal. The one I have is rather cheap. It's plasticky, and I got it like for $30, brand new. This thing is like very inexpensive, which it works, but I find that because it's plastic, when you're stepping on it and you're stepping off of it, it's so light that it kind of moves around a little too much. It's not like a nice heavy like wah pedal, like a Vox wah pedal, where if you step on it and step off, it kind of stays in the right place. So I really need to get a better one. That's probably the next thing I'm probably gonna buy. I don't know why they're so expensive. The fractal pedals are like $180 or something. For an expression pedal, that's pretty expensive. So I'm going to see if I can find something used somewhere. Quicksilver says, hey Tony, does it count as new gear if you rediscover pedals? I was using the UAFX Dream 65 and Ruby, but then I went back to the Joyo American Sound and AC Tone and enjoyed them more. Yeah, I guess it could count as new gear if you're rediscovering, especially if you have gear and you don't really remember that you have it. Like I have stuff in boxes that I haven't used in such a long time, I even forget that I have. So it's like Christmas sometimes. You go in there and you're like, hey man, I forgot I had this pedal. Plug it in and you're in love again, which is cool. It's like Christmas all over again. Hey Fat Philosopher, good morning. Forgot about daylight savings, no worries. We didn't start that long ago. We've only been on for about half an hour or so. Cushman says strap locks, pros or cons, pros and cons. Well, I like having the safety and security of using some kind of strap locks. On the other hand, there's a lot of systems out there that are they're a little bit too proprietary, meaning that you have to like change the locks, change the buttons, and then you have to have a lock on it. And then if you don't have that, you can't use them. So I tend to just use the rubber gaskets that you can get off of anywhere. You can get them off Amazon. The beer stopper gaskets that are made of like rubber. Now Fender makes them too. You can buy them. I guess Fender and other brands make them, but they charge you a fortune for nothing. They're just you can buy a bag of 100 of these things on Amazon for maybe, I don't know, like between 10 and 15 bucks, and you have them forever, and you can just put them on top of your little button here and you're good to go. If you lose them, it's no big deal. I have them all over the place. There might be one lying around here somewhere, I don't know, but I tend to just take them and throw them into my guitar cases and use those. They're inexpensive, they work well, and I don't think you need anything crazier than that. Alex2112 says he uses the rubber washers. Yeah, they're inexpensive, man. So don't go crazy. Don't go spending a fortune. I've used the other ones. I've used the ones from Planet Waves, the straps that have that little thing that you turn and it locks. But that kind of scratches your guitars. I've tried the other ones that you have to like install on your straps. But then if you're using that strap, or if you want to use that strap on another guitar that you don't have them on, it doesn't work. So it's like those little rubber gaskets are the best. They're cheap, they're universal, and they work. Raining like crazy in California. I use my surfboard to get here. I don't know if I should feel sad for you, Gene. I mean, you're in California. It's definitely got warmer there than it is here, and you're talking about surfboards in March where we still have snow outside. So, I don't know if I feel sorry for you or not. Saying Brando's right. Just get the beer pack of washers, pack of 4 bottles, and get the strap locks for free. Exactly. Paul says my mint Washburn semi took me until now to finally get a proper dating. 1975, handmade in Japan. Knew they wanted 2400, only made 74 and 75 because no one would pay that. Interesting. The Washburn, some of the Washburn guitars are really nice and ornate. I don't know if this one is the one that you have, but I've seen some that really look nice. The early stuff is really surprisingly nicely made, and I don't know if Washburn just doesn't seem trendy enough these days. I don't know that many people that are actually looking for the Washburns, but if you have an earlier one, they're really nice. Let me just take a sip here. Fat Philosopher has a question. He says, Tony, have you ever made, and I like Fat Philosopher remembers to use the question marks to indicate that it's a question for me. I like that. If everybody else can do that, that'd be cool. So I know which questions are actually for me and which ones is just a general comment. So Tony, have you ever made a video that does a walkthrough of how to use certain pedals, such as a compressor or an equalizer? If not, whom do you recommend? There's tons of videos out there already. But I was thinking of doing that, exactly that, a compressor especially and an equalizer, because equalizers are great. You can get so much versatility out of them. It's on my list of videos to do. I don't know how popular a video like that would be unless you're specifically looking for that. So, but yeah, I probably will still do it. But if you just Google, best equalizer settings for guitar or compressor settings for guitar, stuff will pop up. But if I had to choose between an equalizer or a compressor on my board, I would go with the equalizer first, because it's just so much more versatility at your fingertips, especially if you're playing with a band. Eddie says, I had a Les Paul Custom come loose and go sliding across the stage. The people went crazy. I almost peed my pants. No kidding. So it was like a Pete Townsend moment, but unplanned, right? Something like that. I would freak out if I would drop my... luckily, and knock on wood, knock on melamine, but I haven't had the misfortune of dropping a guitar. And I shouldn't say that because I know it's going to happen sooner or later, especially today since we're talking about strap locks. I'm going to consider that an omen and make sure I do remember to put my strap locks in my case, because I'm going to be rehearsing later on today with the boys. I haven't had the misfortune of dropping a guitar that has come loose, but I have once, thanks to my cat-like reflexes. It did happen once where it came loose and the guitar was about to fall and I caught it, like in midair. I just caught it and I'm like, oh my God. I think I got some arrhythmia when that happened, because I was like, the last thing I would want is for like something to hit the ground like that. I mean, it's a scary thing. Alan Guitars channel says PRS has oversized strap buttons, which I like. Yes, they do. They are slightly larger. And I don't know if you remember this or not, and I thought this was great, and I don't know why Ibanez stopped doing this. But back in the day, I'm going to say the 80s, 90s, the early Ibanez guitars had a boomerang-shaped strap button. I don't know if you remember these. If you're old like me, you probably will remember this. But they were kind of like V-shaped. They kind of reminded me of a softer, if you look at the Fender Custom Shop logo, there's that V. It's kind of like a softer, rounder version of that. That's how it was shaped. And they worked extremely well. They were easy to slide on, but they wouldn't come off very easily. And they stopped doing that. And I don't know why. It's like those things were great. It's a shame that sometimes things get discontinued for whatever reason. And it's like there's such great ideas that work so well, but then they stop making them. I don't know why. Quicksilver, yeah, I got a pack of 30 of those rubber things like Fender sells off Amazon for about $5. I don't think they're $5 anymore. They're probably like closer to 15. At least here in Canada they are. But yeah, you can get a pack of like 30 or 100. I think I might have gotten 50 or 100. I don't remember. And it costs like peanuts. So Alex2112 says, Tony, can I put a distortion pedal in the effects loop of my amp because I don't like it in the front? You could. I mean, there's no real rules. Generally, you don't really want to, like most people don't generally put a distortion pedal in the effects loop. They reserve those for modulation effects, but you can. But why don't you like the distortion in the in front of your amp? What's wrong with it? You might want to if you're using distortion with other pedals in front of your amp, you might want to change where in the lineup your distortion pedal is as it's going in front of your amplifier first before you decide to put it in the loop. Jack says, I have dropped my Les Paul twice. That's what made me put strap locks on all of my guitars. Yeah, it would cause me to do the same. I think it would cause me to do the same. That's true, Eddie. If it's a heavy guitar, it's gonna go down fast. St. Brando says, my Les Paul dropped once and chipped the corner of the headstock. I thought it was worse until I inspected it. Ever since then, my Les Paul has rubber washers on the strap. Yeah, that's a good thing, man. You know, if you learn from one mistake, it's a good thing. It'll save all your other guitars, but it's a shame to have that happen. Davis, that's exactly the same type of guitar that I had. There was an Ibanez Roadstar 2. It was black and it had those V-shaped strap buttons. Weren't those the best? Like, honestly, I think those were really great. I don't understand why Ibanez stopped doing that. Fat Philosopher says, my 98 Gibson doesn't have those locks. I think it was earlier, because this was the first electric guitar that I ever bought. I'm pretty sure it was in the early 80s. Not the early 80s, but maybe the late 80s. Probably 80, if it wasn't like 88, 89, maybe even 90, they had them then. Jean-Pierre says, I know I'm still mad at McDonald's to have discontinued the McDLT. A lot of people are still unhappy, Jean-Pierre. I'm telling you. You can always go to A&W and protest. Alan says the Ernie Ball Music Man strap buttons are mushroom-like and cheap for a bag of a dozen with screws. Yeah, I think they're similar to what Gibson puts on their Les Pauls. And Alan says, I had an Ibanez Prestige back in the day that had those cone-shaped buttons. Yeah, they weren't really cone-shaped though, Alan. They were more like a V, like a V shape, like a boomerang shape. I don't know if I could actually find a picture of them, but they're definitely more of a V shape than a cone shape. So, first of all, I didn't even welcome everybody officially, especially the people that are new. But if you're new guys, don't forget to subscribe. Otherwise, you won't be able to chat. Okay, so if you're lurking, I know we have 61 people here. Would appreciate thumbs up. We have about 24 thumbs up, and there's about 63 people here. So some of you haven't clicked that button. I would appreciate it if you can do that for me. And as I said, subscribe to chat. If you're new, don't wait till the end of the show. Jump right in. I also, I don't know if I mentioned this. I don't think I did, but I actually put up a video this morning, and it just came to me the other day, and I thought this would be interesting to talk about because I was thinking of this for a while. Pickguards on Les Paul specifically, and I wanted to get your opinions on whether or not you think a Les Paul looks better with or without a pickguard. So I put a video up today. Some of you may have already seen it, may not. Here, I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can watch it later. Let me just copy that link and put it here. But the idea was basically that I was looking at my Les Pauls. You guys could watch that later on. I was looking at the Les Pauls, and I have a couple with pickguards and a couple without pickguards. And I'm thinking, like, I know I like the luxury of having a couple of different options. So some with, some without. But at the same time, I'm thinking like there might be some people that really think like a Les Paul should look or looks complete with a pickguard. At the same time, it's really nice to show the grain of the wood, and the pickguard, in my opinion, hides that. So I made a video and I just posted it this morning, and just to get a little bit of feedback on what you guys think. Because I've been lugging around the pickguard for my Les Paul in the case ever since I bought it. At that time, Gibson wasn't putting the pickguards on the guitars. They were just throwing them in the case and leaving it up to you as to whether or not you wanted to install it or not. And I've probably had the Les Paul for over 5 years, 5-6 years, maybe a little bit more. And I haven't ever installed it. And I was perfectly okay with it, not necessarily installing it on the guitar. But then I'm thinking, like, maybe it doesn't look as good as I think it does. You know, maybe because there's definitely something about a Les Paul with the pickguard that looks complete, in my opinion. You know, like if you look at some of the other artists that use Gibsons, like Jimmy Page, like his guitar has the pickguard on it, and I think it looks classic. You know, like it would look weird to me if Jimmy Page would take the pickguard off of his guitar. But at the same time, you know, you have Greenie, no pickguard. You have, who else has no pickguard? Slash's guitar has no pickguard. There's a few people that just are rocking their Les Paul without a pickguard, and it looks pretty cool too. So I actually put up the video. You can check that out. And I actually put up a poll, and we'll look at the poll results later. And the poll question, for those of you who haven't already seen it or maybe participated in the poll. The poll question is, where is the poll question? It's basically, which do you prefer? Pickguard, no pickguard. This is specifically talking about a Les Paul now, not necessarily other guitars. Like, you know, I'm not talking about a Telecaster or an Ibanez. I'm talking specifically Les Paul style guitar. Yeah, and a lot of people say it depends on the top. I agree, but what do you think? Like I'm thinking if you have a Les Paul that is not a sunburst, let's say you have a, you know, let's say you have a Les Paul that's a painted top, not necessarily a gold top, but let's say a painted top, dark, you know, burgundy, I don't know, one of these more modern colors. I think if you don't have a pickguard on those, they look okay. What do you guys think? And also the specials. If you look at the specials, you know, if it doesn't have binding around the top, I think they look okay if you don't have a pickguard on them. A lot of people have like funny things that they look at when they decide whether or not you should have a pickguard on it. Like, for example, somebody mentioned, like, if you have the zebra stripe pickups in the guitar, then it would look cool without a pickguard. Sorry guys, it's still early for me. So why is that? Is that because the zebra striped pickups seem to be more of a modern thing, and then it blends better with the fact that there's no pickguard on it? I don't know. But let me know what you guys think, because I'm still wondering whether or not I should just install that thing after all these years. I think you're right, Alan. If you do tend to hit the top of the guitar, then definitely, you know, putting in a pickguard on the guitar would be a good thing. Because it wouldn't like cause any issues. You wouldn't necessarily, you know, cause marks on the top of your guitar. But the fact that it's got a you know, a carved top to it, it's kind of hard to hit the top of a Les Paul. You really have to have a pretty mean downstroke to hit it. So Eddie says, always take the pickguard off, but that little hole bugs the hell out of me. That's part of the reason why I didn't install the pickguard in the one I have, because there's no holes drilled yet. You know, so I'm thinking like, if I drill the holes and put the pickguard on it and then change my mind about it, then I'm stuck with those holes, right? And nobody likes to see the little hole here. The one over here is not that bad because you don't really notice the one at the bottom, but the one by the neck, you know, yeah, I can understand why it would bother you. with all the stuff that Gibson has been trying to come out with to revolutionize guitars and make them better and all this kind of thing, they still haven't figured out an easy way to make a pickguard removable. You know, like maybe rare earth magnets, one here, that you can just clip the pickguard on and then take it off when you don't need it. I don't think it would be a crazy difficult thing to do. Rico says, my Slash looks great without, but my Classic looks great with a pickguard. So maybe it's good just to have a couple of them, some with, some without. Then you cover all your bases. Wayne says, my blue Les Paul Studio came with the ugliest color of baby shit brown pickguard. Now it's gone. Well, if the pickguard is ugly in terms of the colors, then I would actually, recommend you remove it. But if it comes, with a standard Gibson style pickguard. Jack says, I have 4 Les Pauls, 2 with pickguards, 2 without. The 2 without are very beautiful and I would not put a pickguard on them. That's what I think. So I think the same way, Jack. I think if you have a nice top on your guitars, like some nice flame or, quilted maple or whatever you may have, you want to show it off, right? So why would you want to cover half of your guitar with a, very inexpensive, cheap piece of plastic? Eddie says, I even take the pickguards off my Strats, but I'm weird like that. Enrico says, I think it's okay to like both. I agree. Paul says, fact, 99% of all scratches on a pickguard are from your fingernails. Is that so? Is that true? Let me see. If you're... Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be that you're hitting you're hitting the pickguard with your fingers first. Could be. Mark says, I could see leaving the pickguard off if you have an amazing top, but a plainer top like mine, I think it looks naked without one. Yeah, it's true. It's definitely like you've become accustomed to the look of a Les Paul with a pickguard. I mean, as I mentioned in the video, like, the guitar is basically a signature model, right? It's an early signature model Les Paul. The guitar was made for him. I'm sure he had a say in what he liked and how it was meant to be built. And, they put in the pickguard, and that's how the guitar was designed from the beginning. So we kind of have that, engraved in our minds that that's what a Gibson should look like. And then when you take it off, it kind of looks like you forgot to put on your skirt or something. It's like you're going commando. Alex says, I have an old Gibson Les Paul Studio with an incredible top that didn't have a pickguard installed. There's not even any holes drilled in the body in the original pickguard is in the case. Yeah, that's exactly what they were doing earlier. They weren't necessarily installing the pickguards, which is okay. I think that's the right way to do it. I think give the option to the person buying the guitar, because if you pre-drill the holes, then you kind of feel like you should be putting the pickguard on because the holes are there and they kind of don't look nice. Almost like somebody vandalized your guitar with a drill. Brando says, didn't they have clip-on guards in 2013? I don't know. Did they? That's something interesting. I don't know. And if they did, why did they get rid of it? I think that would be great. I don't know. Deja Voodoo says, SGs can look a bit naked without a guard, but all my Les Pauls look fine without them. And Cletus says, I used to be a no pickguard guy, but then now I seem to prefer them on. Yeah, that's one of the things that I find happens a lot of times. You kind of flip-flop, right? You go through phases. You're like, it looks cool without, but then after a while, you're like, maybe I'm going to, it's like growing a mustache. You're like, maybe I'll try something different. And then you wear a mustache for a little bit, and then you're like, nah, I think I'm going to go back to without. PS says, with a pickguard on for a long period of time, I'll make a cool effect. See Larry DiMarzio's LP59 in my honest opinion. I see, okay. Well, if the pickguards save your guitars from your nails, not your pick, just keep your nails short and then take the pickguards off. and we're good. Unless you like the wear effect. You know, unless you're going for that worn-in effect where you like to see the guitar, you know, aged with, you know, playing battle scars, so to speak. And Jerry says, to poker chip or not to poker chip on a Les Paul? That's the question. Yeah, and that was going to be my next video. But yeah, you know what? The interesting thing, Jerry, is that for those of us that have PRS style guitars, the PRS style guitars don't come with a pickguard and don't come with a poker chip. So if you already have a PRS or maybe a couple of PRS guitars, especially if they're single cut, then you've already been exposed to the world of no poker chip and no pickguard. And it's easier for you to transition your Les Pauls over to the same kind of look, I feel. But then again, you know, the Les Pauls and the PRS guitar, I mean, PRS guitars are known for their great looking tops and the great flame. And so I understand why they wouldn't want to necessarily cover all that up with a pickguard. You know, if you look at a PRS, and could you imagine a PRS with a pickguard? It just wouldn't look right, you know? Fat Philosopher says, no, Tony, the Les Paul was not designed for Les Paul. It existed a year before he ever saw it. Well, I don't know the facts like 100%, but I know that it ended up being his model. So Mr. McCarty probably already had some prototypes floating around, and eventually they made a model for him, which became the Les Paul. You know, but I would have to wiki it to get all the information. But I know it was, and a lot of people think that Les Paul actually like designed the guitar. It was actually designed, I mean, in conjunction with him, but it wasn't him. You know, it wasn't Les Paul that actually designed the guitar at the time. So, yeah, endorser, not the creator. Exactly. And he says, is the pickguard really for protection or just for looks? Again, it all depends on your playing style. You know, if you're playing like, you know, if you're playing really crazy and you're doing the windmill stuff on your guitar a la Pete Townsend, then you probably would benefit from having a pickguard on there. But, you know, you can actually do... like, I'm surprised PRS hasn't done this, but you can actually do a type of adhesive vinyl, which is transparent, that you can stick on the surface of your guitar. You hardly don't even see it. A lot of some acoustic guitar manufacturers will use this, and it's very subtle. It'll protect your surface, the surface of your guitar, and at the same time, you don't really notice it. I actually made some of these for myself with some specific type of vinyl, and I used them for the back of certain guitars so that I wouldn't get buckle rash. And they just stick on with, it's not even a glue, it's not even any type of adhesive, it's just by static type of, like a kind of a static cling type thing, but it sticks really well and it protects your guitar. And at a certain point, I was making these for certain guitars of mine. And then I stopped for whatever reason. But I might make a few more, actually. That's true. Jimmy Page had switches hidden underneath his pickguard in the 70s. Yeah, that's right. This was a special switching, you know, right underneath the pickguard. So it was very inconspicuous. Nobody knew they were there, but they were. Alex says you have to have the poker chip on your guitar. And Quicksilver says the PRS McCarty looks stupid with a switch on the upper longer horn. Yes, thank you, Quicksilver. I agree, 100%. When I saw that, I'm like, why would they do that? It makes no sense. Like, it looks really bad. Why would you do that? It looks like a pimple. Like, it doesn't seem to be the right place to put a switch. And just for that reason, I'm out on that model guitar. I would never buy one. You know, if it's a single cut, I have no problem with the switch up here, but don't put a switch on you know, a double cut on the upper horn. It just looks hideous to me. What were they thinking? Fat Philosopher says, in those days, artists did not design guitars, they just endorsed. Exactly, yes. That's what happened. St. Brando says, when Gibson was making the HP Les Pauls during the crazy Gibson era, the high performance standards came up with clip-on pickguards. You can buy them on Reverb. Really? I got to check those out. I'm wondering how they work. How do you clip them on? Got to check them out. Thank you for that. See, I learned something new. Alan says, I'm looking at the guitar paintings behind you and they all have pickguards. That's true. You're right. You are absolutely right. You know what? The pickguards will protect the guitar, but they will also eventually, or they could also wreak havoc on your fingers. Because I've actually, when I went to see, this is a funny story, I may have already told you guys, but when I went to see The Who, at the time it wasn't even the full band. It was just basically Roger Daltrey. He was playing the Who music with a bunch of studio musicians, and it was a smallish venue. There was maybe a couple thousand, maybe 2,000 to 5,000 people, maybe even less. So it was great because the sound was beautiful. I was really close up, and Roger was singing extremely well. So the guitarist that was playing, there was actually two guitarists on stage. One was actually Pete Townshend's brother. This was during the time where Pete was having trouble with his hearing and wasn't able to actually perform. So his brother, believe it or not, plays extremely well. And he was playing all of Pete's songs really, really well. But there was another guitarist, and I don't remember his name, studio guitarist that I've seen many, many times before. He was actually also playing at one point with, I believe it was the Australian Pink Floyd. I don't remember his name. Long hair, tattoos. Anyways, really good guitarists. I still remember because that guitarist was actually using the third power amps behind him, and he was using the cabinets that were triangular. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the third power triangular amp cabinets. Really unique. So you can put them like, you know, three of them stacked one on top of the other to make sort of an elongated stack instead of vertical. But anyways, long story short, he was playing, and he obviously, when you're getting to the Who stuff, to the end, the encores, you know, he was doing the windmill stuff, and he did it, and his fingernail caught somewhere, probably on the high E string, and I saw him flinch, like he went like, you know, he was playing and he went like that, and he was looking at his hands, and I could tell something went wrong, and he just started bleeding like crazy, and I think one of his fingernails just flew off or something, because his hand was like dripping in blood, and he was still playing, the guy, you know, like, talk about a professional. Like, that must have been so painful, and he was just, you know, his fingers were dripping, and thankfully it was during almost the end of the set, so, you know, he got an opportunity to get off stage and get patched up, but I don't know if that would have happened anyways, but you know, when you're doing the windmills, it's a little risky thing to be doing. Rich, thank you for the super chat, buddy. What do you think of Tonex and the future of amps? Do you still play your amps? Well, first of all, thank you for supporting the channel with the super chat, Rich. I appreciate it. Tonex, I haven't had the opportunity to try one yet. I would love to get my hands on one because having been exposed to the Valaton, Harley Benton stuff, New X stuff, I'm curious to see how this fits in to the like lineup and what it can do. A lot of people are raving about the Tonex. I don't know if it's just going to be a flash in the pan and eventually they're going to forget about it. Like there's a lot of stuff that comes out and immediately a lot of YouTubers are bombarded with products and they're all raving about it, and then like a month or two later you don't hear anything about it anymore. Just like the Fender amps that came out that were totally transistor, and everybody had them and everybody was talking about how great they are and how light they are, and now who's talking about them? Nobody. So I don't know. Until I can get my hands on one and try it for myself, I can't really say. All I know is, I got to compare it to the lower end stuff that I have and the higher end stuff here. So maybe it's a good compromise between the two, and could fit that gap for those of you that don't want to spend, upwards of $2,000 to get something crazy like a fractal. So I'll let you know as soon as I can get my hands on one for a review. Presley says Les Paul was definitely involved with the development of his model. He was credited with making the log. Then they added side pieces later. Not 100% on the exact body shape, but he definitely helped. I'm sure he had influence. Absolutely. We all know the story about when they changed the Les Paul to the SG, how he didn't like that guitar at all and he didn't want to endorse it and he wanted his name to be taken off of it. Eddie loves the horn on the on the upper horn. Okay. Tony, the early Gibson electrics were mostly rough sketches that the guy making the prototype decided on the exact proportion. In '83, I talked to those guys. Rough sketches that the guy making the prototypes decided on. Okay, yeah. Well, what about McCarty? He had a say in all that too, right? Keith, thank you for the super sticker, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I'm just scrolling down, guys. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the thumbs up button today. I think everybody's either forgotten to give thumbs up or not interested, or I don't know, maybe I'm not entertaining enough. But I agree, Stan Brando. 28,000 subscribers, 62 people in the chat, and only 11 thumbs up. I'm seeing 38, so that's better. We're definitely far from 60, but I thank you for the reminder. So now that I have this Telecaster almost put together and just the final tweaks left to go, I'm gonna finish up with those little updates and then do a review on this guitar and show you and play through it. And I'm just gonna review it like it's a brand new guitar and show you what I did. I think some people might be interested. There are some more videos that are coming out with describing the process, and I know some of you like those type of my messy workbench videos, so I do have a couple that are in the can already, and I'll trickle them out. They are rather long, and I know they're not for everyone. So if you're not into that kind of thing and you're not into guitar building, you might not be interested. But I have other videos coming out as well on guitars and other things that are going to be interesting too. So stay tuned for all of those. I was very interested in seeing the new Mesa amplifier. I don't know if you, thank you, Buddha. Thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you for the words of encouragement. I was worried there for a minute. Alex says, Tony, I give you a thumbs up every time I come to the show. This show is great Sunday morning. Your time slot is killer. I'm happy you guys like the early morning time slot. Mark, have a good work day. See you all next week. Have a good rest of the weekend. Enjoy yourself, man. Thank you for stopping by. Presley says, I ordered a Sonic Blue Hardtail Strat body. It's going to get a maple neck and a mint green pickguard. Also got a Shoreline Gold Strat body with a trim. It's getting a tortoise guard. So Presley has a few builds ready to go too. Nice. Is the McCarty Tulip any good? I don't know. Not really sure. And Fat Philosopher says, Ted McCarty has explicitly said that Les Paul had nothing to do with designing the original Les Paul. Anything otherwise was just Les Paul blowing smoke up people's butt. Could be. Who knows the real story, man? I wasn't there. I always thought it was Ted that did most of the design work. And I'm sure it's not just him. I'm sure it was Ted with other people as well that probably didn't get the credit for it. I'm just scrolling, guys. Scrolling. Sorry if I skip your comments, but I'll get to it hopefully. So what I was saying was a couple weeks back, or maybe even I mentioned it last week, I was saying that I was waiting for Mesa to come up with something new because I was sure, I had the gut feeling they were going to be coming up with something new shortly because it's been a while. And sure enough, I start seeing these videos on the new amp that they came out with. And I was looking at it and interesting, but you know, they call it like a new amp. It's the Mark VII. And of course they're advertising and marketing it as the most power-packed Mark series ever. So now I hope they're not going to start doing like Apple does and just every year they put up, you know, the Mark VII, the Mark VIII, the Mark IX, the Mark X. I hope they don't do that. I was hoping they would come up with something new, but basically it's kind of a rehash of what they already had. So they had the Mark V, the Mark VI, now the Mark VII, which is still a 90-watt combo head. I think they have a combo, a head, and a rack mount unit. And they do have the power scaling, so it could go down to 25 watts, which is great. They say it's designed from scratch, but I don't know. It seems like it's still the same. To me, it seems like a rehash. They claim it's 9 amps in one, which is, again, maybe overkill. I don't know. But at the same time, it's almost $4,000. It's $3,799 USD. So in Canadian money, that's $4,000 already, plus taxes. A lot of money for an amp. Okay, they say you're getting 9 amps, whatever. At the end of the day, look at it this way. I find that although I think the Mesa stuff is very well made, there's a lot of people that like Mesa stuff. I'm not saying that they're not good. I've had plenty of Mesa amps. They just didn't resonate with me. But I listened to the sound samples and with an open mind, and I still realize that it's still the same issues with those amps. Basically, number one, it's option paralysis because there's just too many options, too many knobs, too many channels, too many switches. And if you've ever owned a Mesa amp, you know that a little tweak here, a little tweak there changes the sound completely. It's not like a Marshall that you can turn a knob, 45% of the way before you actually hear a difference. The Mesa stuff is very touch sensitive. So you're going to be tweaking that thing quite a bit. The good news is they do have the cab clone IR stuff. So basically you can simulate cabinets with it, which is great, I guess, especially if you're going to be doing recording for it. Some people may love the fact that you're getting 9 flavors of amps in one. If you specifically like the other flavors of the amps. If you don't, well, then it's a lot of amps for nothing. Because what ends up happening when you have too many choices, you end up playing one most of the time, right? So there's that. To me, the Mesa stuff, like even that particular amp, and I was listening to it again with fresh ears, it always seems that it sounds a little cold. It's very cold, and it seems like, how can I put it? Stiff. You know what I mean? It doesn't have, that particular amp at least doesn't have that warm flavor to it, like like some of their other models that they had that were really great. It doesn't have that spongy feel. You know what I mean? So thankfully the EQ on it does give you a lot of flexibility. A lot of people like the more of the aggressive sounds coming out of that particular amp, and I'm sure they'll sell a bunch of them, but it didn't entice me, unfortunately. So I don't know what you guys feel. If you guys have seen this particular amp, are interested in it, or maybe considering it. Thanks, Cushman. Thank you for the kind words, buddy. Thank you. Dan says, who's a guitarist in here? LOL. Anyways, that's my take on this brand new Mesa thing. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you haven't seen it, take a look at it. Give me your feedback. I'm curious to see if you guys would be enticed at that price point, because honestly, at $4,000, you have a lot of choice. And for me, I'd rather have one amp that sounds great than having, 9 amps that are so-so. And honestly, like, if we're comparing apples and apples, the Fractal is still cheaper, and there's like 300 amps in here or something. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to be a Fractal fanboy, but that's the reality. Is that I'm sort of, it's elevated the options in terms of flexibility that I have now at my fingertips. So when I consider stuff like a new amp, it's got to be in the sound ranges that I can already get, Just scrolling back to the last comments. Did I miss something? Davis says, how often do you change strings? I have 5 primary guitars for my band, and it gets pricey using Elixir strings. I agree, yeah. Plus I have 12 other guitars. I totally understand, Davis. And unfortunately, I wish it was true that, if you don't play your guitars, your strings don't become dead, but they actually do. Even if you're not playing your guitars, eventually they sound like rubber bands. So some people think like, oh, I've hardly touched that guitar in the last couple of months, so the strings are still brand new, but that's not the case. And it's funny that you mentioned this, because just yesterday I was changing strings on one of my guitars, and it's 2 packs of Ernie Ball strings that I open up that are brand new, and they have these little things on them like this. Here's one of them. I don't know if you can see, but there's like these black marks, and I can actually feel something on the strings. So it shouldn't be tarnished, because honestly, they weren't used. So it's some kind of I would say a manufacturing defect or something, but I can definitely with my finger feel it. And there's a couple of strings. There's a high E string that has some of these, and the B string. The G string seems good, but I noticed the same thing on another pack of strings. So I don't know if I got defective strings or whatnot, but it's the first time I see this, and I'm not happy. I really am. I'm not, but what am I supposed to do? I can't actually return them, right? Same Brando says, I find cheap acoustics are very thin sounding. Yeah, in some cases they are. Some cases, not all cases. I've come across some pretty affordable, like the Sigma stuff. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sigma acoustic guitars. They're basically, I wouldn't say copies, but they're very close to Martin's, and very inexpensive. And some of them sound amazingly great for the money. They're not expensive at all. If you find used ones, especially older ones, you should take a listen to them. They're pretty good. But yeah, some acoustics definitely sound thin. Presley says 4,000 is a lot of cash. Definitely. Paul says it doesn't matter how many choices one gets in either a real amp or a modular. You play one sound, maybe 3 tops, and only use those. Mesa has a very bad reliability record. Repairs on them are through the roof. Well, I don't know if this is recent, Paul, but I mean, the older stuff was good. But I could understand why the repairs would be higher on those guitars. Have you ever looked inside a Mesa amp? It's crazy how much stuff is in there. It's like a a highway city of like circuits, components, transistors, capacitors. Like it's basically packed to the hilt, and there's so many like knobs and switches that eventually something's gonna fail. You know, I'm the type of guy I'd rather just go with something simple. You know, I'm happy with a channel amp and pedals. You know what I mean? But I get your point. I get your point. I would say with the modelers, you know, I find myself experimenting with so many different sounds now that I have this here, especially with all of the options that you can actually program into it. So, you know, I actually find myself striving for some sounds that I wouldn't even attempt with anything else. You know, like, for example, if there's a part in a song that has harmonies with the guitar, like maybe it's two guitars overdubbed. Well, in the past, it would be very difficult for me to do that with independent pedals, but with this thing, you can do it. You know, it's just a question of like figuring out how, but it can do it. So it opens up some interesting possibilities. Deja Voodoo says Electro had a 1937 design which became the Rickenbacker frying pan. The 1948 Bigsby Merle Travis is an advanced electric single cut design that gets forgotten, and less mind keeping it quiet. So yeah, I agree. Advanced electric single cut that gets forgotten. I forgot about it, so I agree with you. But thanks for bringing that out, pointing that up. Dan says it's barbecue sauce on the strings. Eating on the job. I wish it was. It isn't. That's the funny thing. I haven't spilled anything right out of the bag. I should complain, as if anybody's going to listen. Alan's Guitar Channel says, I think it's weird that Gibson owns Mesa. Gibson I associate with Marshall. Mesa I associate with bands like Metallica and Dream Theater. Yeah, it seems like Mesa is a little bit too modern for Gibson. You know, because Gibson is kind of like a retro, living in the past with all this, you know, true historics and vintage this, vintage that. And so I was hoping they would just come out with a very simple, straightforward amp that would, you know, do the Marshall thing. But then again, maybe they're just not trying to compete with Marshall. So, yeah, Randy, I know. Wash your hands. No barbecue sauce when you're playing. Buddha says, I just checked out Mesa number 5. Too much money and stupid knobs. What the F? It's an amp. Yeah, it's almost like they're looking at, you know, developing something for NASA with all those knobs. It's a little bit overkill. Yeah, Mesa amps are not easy to work on. You're right, Jerry. Fat uses the NYXL strings. Too expensive for my blood, Fat Philosopher. When I have a lot of guitars, and I'm looking at buying packs in a bundle, it would cost me a fortune. So I buy cheap strings, but I buy expensive picks. This is a V pick that I had somewhere. I gotta buy some more of these. I like these a lot. I promised a few people here, I don't know if they're still here, but I promised a couple of people here that I would show off some of their handiwork. So I have a couple of images that I want to share here with you guys. So I'm going to start off with something from Harry. I just don't know. These pictures are a little small. So I'm going to just, I don't know if I could zoom in on them. Probably not. Let's see here. Yeah, I think I could. Okay. So here, I'm just going to share a couple of, unfortunately, I gotta zoom in on them because they're small. But Harry was the grand prize winner. Let me just see if you can see this here. Oh, let me just take this down here. All right. Harry was the grand prize winner of our body giveaway. If you guys remember, quite a while back, we did a kit giveaway, and he was working on the guitar. So these are a couple of shots of the work in progress, and I have a couple of images that I have here I'll share with you as well. Here, I'll pop up. There's another one here. Can you see that? So he actually worked hard on these and put together a series of step-by-step videos on the paint job. And there's the back of it. There's one of the headstock shots. And that's the guitar assembled, sitting on his sofa. And he says it turned out quite nice. He's got a couple of adjustments to make on it. But other than that, it's looking very good. And I wanted to say great job. And at the same time, I wanted to show you something else here. Give me one minute. This is also a really nice guitar build from Charles 75. And Charles, as you guys already know from information that we've shared here on the live chat, creates these great fabric top guitars. And this is one that he was working on. Really nice fabric top. Here's a series of these two really nice guitars. Let me see if I can actually get it a little bit bigger for you guys. Can you see that? Two really nice fabric top guitars that he was building for someone. He's doing a fantastic job, I gotta say. You guys, you're knocking my socks off with this stuff. And that was it. I just had a couple of images that I wanted to share. So if you're ever looking for a really cool fabric top, you know where to go. You go to Charles, and he'll help you out. So I just wanted to give a shout out to you guys. I imagine what Page could have done with a Kemper. Yeah, I agree. Or Hendrix. Could you imagine? Pretty crazy stuff if you think about it. I think they would have probably knocked our socks off. I don't think they would have said, I have to just use a Marshall and a couple of fuzz pedals. I think they would have embraced the technology. Yeah, is Charles still here? I don't know if Charles is still in the chat here. But yeah, great job. I give him a thumbs up for those really nice guitars. Absolutely. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was the crazy products that come up, and how people are just trying to market any crazy thing. I came across this product. It's called the Tune Voodoo Skull. And basically what it's designed to do is it's designed to help Les Paul stay in tune, because we all know why the two middle strings don't usually stay in tune all that well, because of the split, right? The fact that they're doing this when they're coming off of the nut. So of course there's things like what is it called, the tone butler or something like that we all probably have seen. It's a little V-shaped device that you put on the headstock, and it keeps your strings going straight to the actual nut. And I think it's just displacing the problem, because it's just moving it further up. But what do I know? Anyways, I came across this thing now called the Voodoo Tune Skull. Tune Voodoo Skull. And basically all it is, and it's kind of funny looking, but I'm going to share it with you guys so you guys can see it, all right? Give me one sec here. I'm just going to pull up the... There you go. Tune Voodoo Skull. So what is it? It's basically this little device here that looks like a skull. Can you see that right over here? Looks like a skull, and basically the strings go through the eyes, and it basically takes the two middle strings and keeps them a little bit straighter. It's basically a string guide, right? You can probably do exactly the same thing with a regular string guide that you would put on a Fender guitar, right? But they're making it sound all crazy and important. And explain me this. how does this make the problem go away? You're just basically, yeah, your strings are going through straight on the nut right here, but you're just displacing the problem over here, right? So I don't know. And I don't know how much they're charging for this. I don't know if there's a price on this, but it's just like, it's weird. So I don't know how much they're charging. It doesn't say. But it's kind of ridiculous, I find. You know, like, do we need that? They're probably going to charge you like 30 or 40 bucks for a device like this. I'm just curious. I'm going to actually see how much this thing costs, just for giggles. And I know people want to make money, you know, and it's probably lucrative if people buy this stuff. Probably costs peanuts to make. Tune Voodoo. Okay, tunevoodoo.com. Let me see if there's a price on that. And it's just like a skull, really? I don't know, man. If we want to buy it, it costs... How do we buy this thing? Okay, so yeah, it's like, okay, so it's, check this out. If you want to get the skull, they have a golden version at 69 euros that is sold out. And then they have another version, which is just a regular dark version for 29 euros. And then I'm sure you probably have to pay shipping also, right? If you're in Canada or the States. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It could do that, Fat Philosopher. Yeah, it might cause less friction if the bend is more subtle. You're right, it could. It could, but it's an ugly device. Like, why couldn't they make something that's a little bit more inconspicuous? You know, I wouldn't want to bring attention to it. You know, I would probably make something small and black that you can put on there and you wouldn't really notice it. And I'd be more interested in that than something like a skull. Hey, Peg City Pickups. Nice to see you, buddy. Thank you for joining us. And Deja Voodoo says, the rabbit hole just makes you realize how simple and vitally important a correctly cut nut is. Exactly. It's like you're putting a Band-Aid on a problem. The problem is the nut, right? So fix the nut. Yeah, I don't understand. Exactly, Beavis. You'd be better off buying some slot files and learning how to use them. You know. Anyways, I don't want to complain. I just wanted to bring it up because, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's just me. The other cool rumor that I've heard this week, and maybe you guys have already seen this and heard this, is that there's probably going to be another Slash Gibson model coming up. The rumor has it that there's probably going to be an Explorer type Slash model coming out from Gibson. It probably will be another limited edition, probably. Rumor has it it's a Explorer body, gold top, no knobs, double humbucker with inlays. I think the inlays look like the ones on a Gibson Les Paul, which I find odd looking on an Explorer. So let's see what happens. I'm sure we're going to get some more information on this, and maybe Gibson will be releasing this soon. I'm not surprised that they're coming up with more signature models because, you know, they're very expensive and that's where they make a lot of money. Steve says, does Slash and Page have tuning problems with the Les Pauls, or do they have better nutwork? They probably have tuning issues also, but I'm pretty sure they have somebody that's paying just a little bit more attention to their nut situations. I'm pretty sure they do. If they're touring, they definitely have techs with them all the time. Lewis says, I'm buying a Jackson Dinky GS22 for my first budget guitar. Have I made the correct choice? Well, Louis, it's funny because we were just talking about tuning issues, and the GS22, if it's the model that has no locking nut, is prone to having tuning issues because of the way the headstock is designed and the way the strings are all at an angle. So you may need to work on the nut. The GS guitar that I have, I actually changed the nut on that guitar, and it made a huge, substantial difference in tuning stability. So if you find yourself having issues with tuning, that's where you're going to have to look, unfortunately. If you have the locking nut, you shouldn't have any issues. Presley, California Custom says, still waiting for my Guitar Max Harley Benton. No, I'm not. Well, I actually saw that, and it's very similar to the Harley Benton that I reviewed, which is the Fusion 3 that I had shown you guys with the Floyd on it. I saw the Guitar Max version. To me, I don't like the reverse headstock. I just don't. So I prefer the one I have, which is the standard version. The only difference, I think, are the pickups, where he has a single coil in the neck position and a humbucker in the bridge position. And I think the humbucker is splittable, so you can have like two single coil type sounds with a little switch. I don't really use that, so I don't really need it. But the stock Fusion has the push-pull pot where you can split the humbuckers. I'm very happy with this guitar. It's really nice. And, if you're into the reverse headstock, maybe the Guitar Max version would be cool for you guys. But for me, I'm not really enticed by it. But it's interesting that you brought it up. Quicksilver says, hey Tony, have you ever used Monty's wiring looms? In a two-span I bought a made in Mexico Telecaster and Strat. Love them both. But as always, for us lefties, the tone knob is an on-off switch. I have not used the wiring looms. Basically, a wiring loom is the wiring circuit, right? You have the tone volume knob and the switch. They call them looms. But I haven't tried them. I've tried the Monty's pickups, which I love very much. I think they're great sounding pickups. The humbuckers. I still have those in my Les Paul, but I have not needed a loom recently, so I didn't buy his. I usually put together my own. I find like they're pretty expensive, right? If you're gonna buy one fully assembled, they're pretty expensive. So I tend to build my own, especially since you're ordering them from England and you're going to have to pay shipping and handling on top of the price. So I kind of avoid that. Justin R says, just got an old Vox VT30. I absolutely love it and can't fault it other than the digital aspect of the effects. So you like it. So that's great. And if you're using it for home use, if the effects are digital, are you saying you don't like the effects because they're digital sounding, like they don't sound as good? Or is it because you prefer analog effects and the digital effects still sound good? I'm not really clear. There's also some great news, in my opinion, that there's going to be a tribute concert being held for Jeff Beck. I think he deserves it. The man, definitely deserves to have a tribute to his life. And apparently, there's going to be people like Billy Gibbons there, Eric Clapton, Rod Stewart, Derek Trucks, Gary Clark. Who else? I think Johnny Depp obviously will be there because they were good buddies. So that's going to be very cool to see. I don't know when exactly it's going to happen, but apparently it's in the works. They're playing at the Royal Albert Hall. I think it's going to happen in May. So a couple of months down the line. And I don't know if it's going to be recorded. I hope it will be. I hope it's going to be broadcast, televised somewhere. Hopefully we'll get to see these on YouTube or whatever, because it's going to be a star-studded group of people there. And I can't wait to see that. He deserves it. You know, he was the man. And I'm happy that they're actually taking the time to put this together. All right, so guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up. I'm just gonna share the poll results with you guys. How's that? Because we did talk about it. So let me just pull up that information here. Give me one sec. And I'll just refresh the page so that we can see what the final results are. So the poll question was, do you prefer the look of a Gibson Les Paul with or without a pickguard? And you can still enter your opinion here. And there was 176 votes on the poll question. 49% said with the pickguard on. 38% said without a pickguard, and 13% said I don't really care, never really liked Les Pauls. So definitely more people, almost 50%. Chose with the pickguard. So I think it's close, though. It's closer than I thought. 49 to 38, not too bad. So maybe I'll reconsider putting on that pickguard. I'll sleep on it. I'll let you know. Beavis says Greg Koch is awesome. Love that dude. And somebody mentioned that he's the new Jeff Beck. He's definitely a phenom when it comes to playing that guitar. The sounds that he's getting out of that thing are crazy. I love him. I love the man. Like, I would travel, to the States to go to Boston or something and see him play someplace. Because this he's a knockout. If you guys don't already know Greg, check him out on YouTube. His band is amazing. And he does things on that guitar that I don't even know how he does. Gene says Satriani was the old new Beck. Yeah, but Satriani is it's a different style. Satriani is more, he's a lot more on the flash, where Jeff was a little bit more subdued and more about the tone, making his guitar cry, where, Satriani is a little bit more flashier, I would say. Yeah, Rico, I agree. The Van Halen camp is sleeping there. What are they waiting for? It looks like it's not going to happen, but maybe it's for the best, because I have a feeling it would just be a debauchery, with Sam and Dave and the rest of maybe it's better that they just let it be. Presley says, Addicted to Gear, wanted to get in on the fun and emailed you a picture of the current builds. Well, I didn't actually see that, Presley. I'll save it for next Sunday if you don't mind, because I didn't get a chance to look at those or download them yet. But I'll be happy to share them next week. Quicksilver says Satriani is also bald. Never trust bald guys. That's true. There isn't that many bald guitarists, come to think of it, right? There's balding guitarists, but not that many bald guitarists. Interesting. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Addicted to Gear Live. I hope you guys had a pleasant hour and a half, almost 2 hours. We're almost at an hour and 45 minutes. If you guys do like what we're doing here, remember that we do it every Sunday. 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. If you enjoy what we're doing, give me a thumbs up. If you want to help the channel, just subscribe and watch the videos and like the videos, share the videos, and spread the word, because, that's what we're here for. We'll be back next week with more Gear Talk. If you have any questions after the event, I'm always reachable through comments on my videos or through emails or, social media, whichever way you want to get a hold of me. Just reach out. I'm always happy to answer your questions. And it was great fun for me. I hope it was great fun for you. And if you have any ideas for videos that maybe you'd like to see me do, I'm always open to suggestions as well. All right. So have a great Sunday. Have a great rest of the week. Stay healthy. Stay happy. Take your guitars and play them. Don't just buy stuff. Use them. And we'll be back next week, next Sunday with more. That's it for now, guys. See you all soon. Have a great week.